It's time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to get down to the movie that inspired me as a storyteller and this YouTube channel. While Battle Royale was released in Japan almost 25 years ago, it wasn't shown to audiences in North America until 2011. Judging by the film's subject matter, there's a good reason why it took so long to be released in the United States and got banned from some countries. But as someone who grew up being affected by family movies with dark topics, children of pale moments, and scary elements for better or worse, it offers a riveting and hard-hitting experience, changing the perception of how films can be made. However, that doesn't mean American movies will follow the same techniques as you normally see in Asia extreme films, even if they try, let alone Quentin Tarantino, who considered this the best film in the last 20 years. It is evident that The Hunger Games, both the movie and the novel, has introduced newcomers to its dystopian future where children are forced to participate in a life or death game. On a positive note, the film provides the same emotional thread as the novel by Suzanne Collins, but on a visual level, it's never as thought-provoking as Battle Royale. This picture offers more impact and realism, making several YA fantasy movies and shows look like High School Musical. Based on a novel by Kosha Takami, which came out in 1999, it follows 42 ninth grade students chosen by the Japanese totalitarian government as they must kill each other until the last one remains. The film's prologue begins with a reporter as she makes a report on what she's witnessing through her eyes while the military takes a little girl away, who is declared the winner of the Battle Royale event. As she is covered in blood and holding onto a stuffed doll which is also drenched in blood, she provides a creepy smile that feels almost identical to Alex's in the opening shot of A Clockwork Orange. Our hero, Showa Nanahara, played by Tashira Fujiwara, is introduced when he finds his father hanged in their home. He narrates a few things that happened in his previous life before he and his classmates spend their time going on a field trip, even though neither of them has any idea what's in store for them. Once the game has started, we see him tagging along with a female student in his class, Noriko, played by Eiki Manida, and a transfer student, Kawada, played by Taro Yamamoto. Is it true when people say that Battle Royale is one of the most violent movies ever made? Undoubtedly, yes. Unlike The Hunger Games, this one relies heavily on its graphic images and has no shaky camera when the violence happens. Characters get stabbed, have their necks slashed, multiple shots around their bodies, and more. Sometimes the picture uses this violent content as a work of art, such as when characters get covered in blood in their school uniform, but other times it conveys characterization. We see these characters by their choices, and it's clever that the film never tries to make any of them as cool or super when firing a gun or stabbing somebody. Anyone who finds the violence in Battle Royale gratuitous sounds a little unfair. Sometimes it feels necessary to provide bloodshed if it lies within the story's context, and the film does an adequate job of portraying the horrors these students face in a situation like this. If some or many can argue that most of its violence doesn't seem to hold up to this day, that's understandable. However, there is no purpose in denying the experience, which remains as emotional and forceful as before. Since then, critics have compared Kick-Ass and Assassination Nation to this film for the way they portray young characters killing people in dangerous situations. In recent years, the Belko experiment and Ready or Not provided a similar concept to this picture, especially the Korean hit show on Netflix, Squid Game. Tarantino also clearly referenced Battle Royale in Kill Bill Volume 1 by casting Chiaki Kuriyama, who played one of the 42 students, Jigsaw, as the psychopathic Go-Go, except she wears a different school uniform in that one. While several violent movies use violence as entertainment value, Battle Royale doesn't fall into that category. It is entertaining, but it goes beyond that level. What separates this from the others is the emotionality behind these students and how they grapple with fear or different emotions in this game. It's rare to see a movie with an extreme concept that never comes off as forced, hollow, or heavy-handed. On top of that, it explores empathy through some of the students as they are faced with trauma or mistreatment before they arrive on the island, and that is where the non-linear structure comes in. Apart from his father's death, Showa becomes horrified and devastated to see his best friend Nobu, played by Yukihiro Kitani, killed before the game. Throughout the film, he remains loyal and upstanding to his classmates, especially Noniko, who is kind, innocent, and sometimes quiet. She gets bullied and assaulted by her peers, but keeps her head high. Shortly after the game, it is shown that Nobu has a crush on Noniko, showing why Showa wants to keep her safe. They team up with Kawada, a transfer student who knows how to get off the island, or does he? While many students try to escape the game, others go with it. Koyami, played by Masanobu Ando, the other transfer student who's a complete mute, has no sympathy for the students. His only purpose is to kill them until he's the last one alive. Mitsuko, played by Koshi Basaki, a student with no friends, becomes as dangerous and sadistic as Koyami, even though they don't work together. She's conniving, manipulative, and vicious. As for Jikasa, there is little backstory of her character. However, her confrontation with one of her classmates who has a crush on her remains my favorite scene. And the reason it's my favorite scene is that it does a beautiful job providing beauty of her point of view as she jogs around the forest before it dissolves into ugliness when she makes a kill. So far, the only movie that captures the same emotionality as Battle Royale is Jojo Rabbit, which is surprising because it's a comedy drama, not an action thriller. That said, both are a ride full of emotions, surrounding the harsh reality these young characters encounter as they process through pain, loss, and trauma. One of the biggest debates several moviegoers have faced with Battle Royale is the genre. Even though many have looked at this as a horror thriller, others, such as myself, consider this more of a dystopian action thriller. As horrific and thrilling as the violence could be, the film doesn't particularly feel scary. It becomes closer to 2003's Old Boy, a South Korean action thriller that became more than a cult success. What's also remarkable about Battle Royale is how it operates on so many levels. A dystopian action thriller, of course, a teen melodrama, a dark comedy, and a social commentary. Like a few great motion pictures that tend to hop from one genre to another, there is not a single moment where this movie loses its beat on where it wants to be. It's also worth mentioning that the film brings in several newcomers who deliver a superb job by bringing their characters to life. Tashira Fujiwara is marvelous as Showa, and the scenes between him and Iki Maeda as Noriko are potent and effective, providing a massive light to the screen. Takashi Kitano, better known for starring and directing Violent Cop and Fireworks, is memorable as Kitano, a former teacher running the BR Act. The film illustrates Japanese violence in a dystopian future setting that feels nothing more than a reminiscent of the kind that happened in the 20th century. However, its bigger context lies in the conflict between adults and children, but it also tells a story about how many parents have failed their children. Showa's mother left him when he was in 4th grade, while his father committed suicide, even though he left a note that tells him to move forward in his life. At some point, his life becomes more of a tragic tale as he continues to see the horrors inside and outside the game, filled with deaths, misery, and bloodshed. There's even an interesting moment where Showa said he never trusted adults and hasn't thought about what his life would be like if he became an adult, but he knows he won't stay young forever. Director Kinji Fukasaku said he wanted to adapt the novel because it reminded him of when he worked in an ammunition factory at 15 during World War II. When his factory was taken under fire by U.S. Navy warships in July 1945, he became one of the remaining survivors of that incident. At that point, he realizes that the Japanese government has been lying about the war, holding a grudge against adults for a very long time. So in a way, he uses his anger and distrust of adults to resemble Showa's feelings about them. It also features a startling flashback where young Mitsuko comes home and finds her mother drunk with a pedophile, which happens in a special edition. The only adult who gets more screen time is Katano. The biggest issue he's dealing with is his estranged daughter, who bickers about her mother, his bad breath, or something troubling in her life. He doesn't like to be around with his students because they torment him in school, but aside from everyone else, Noriko is the only one he becomes fond of because, through her kindness, he sees her as the daughter he wishes to have. However, some of the film's characters never had any beef with her parents. Noriko hopes to get married when she becomes an adult like her mother did, while Karada's father taught him several things about being a doctor, a chef, and a fisherman. He mentions his father to Showa and Noriko 3 times during the film. Several students in the game try to rejoin their best friends, secret crushes, or loved ones. Through his filmography, Fukasaku, who ranges from a long list of Yakuza films and historical epics, hasn't made a film that left several critics and audiences memorized, but with Battle Royale, he has finally grabbed our attention with this classic, even if the praise he deserved came out eventually. Some or more might not appreciate Fukusaku's filmmaking, just how he keeps it so plain and simple, but overall it feels as great as it needs to be. Even though Oldboy remains one of the most original and compelling movies ever made, some of its filmmaking style and special effects feel slightly dated and distracting. Any movie like this one that tries to put in a flair style will ruin the relevant points it tries to make. Sadly, Fukusaku passed away 3 years after its release. He only directed a scene in the second one, but his son Kenta, who also wrote the script for the first film, took over and filmed the rest. I first encountered Battle Royale during my sophomore year, and it still holds up, no matter what others have to say about it. Film may get under people's skin regarding its violent content, but it also provides a masterful mixture of light and darkness to its narrative. Like Jojo Rabbit and A Bright Summer Day, it offers glimmers of hope to some of its characters as they march to an uncertain future, and that's good enough to call it a satisfying trip. Ever since The Hunger Games was released in 2012, it's easy to understand there won't be a remake of this film, which is a relief. Nowadays, most movie buffs will call Citizen Kane, The Godfather, or Vertigo the greatest film ever made. However, for me, it will always be Battle Royale, an incendiary masterpiece that provides emotions, thoughts, feelings, and excitement. If anybody's interested in seeing Battle Royale, watch the theatrical cut. The special edition is great, but the theatrical cut is superior. It offers everything that a movie can or should be done. And since this is my favorite film of all time, this is obviously a 10 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you love and acknowledge what I have to say about this masterpiece. Huge shout out to my family and my friends. You know who you are. Thank you for your support. I miss you all. Make sure you like and share this video. And if you're new here, click on the subscription button for more latest content. And I'll see you soon.